Okay, lads. Day 12. Turn 3. Let's get into it. You'll remember we set the budget in that short video that we just had. Trials of Democracy. And prior to that we had the meeting with business leaders and constitutional reforms. Alright, let's see what we've got. Read the report from Wholesword. Lucien Gallarda reported that so far they've been able to get in total 87 signatures behind the proposal. Work is underway to increase the support and reach out to necessary members. So yeah, that's the constitutional reforms. I'm still hoping for like a middling success on that. See if we can thread the needle on it. Now, is there anything else that needs done? Doesn't look like it. Alright. Oh, don't know about this one. Having to push continue. Turn 4. Oof. Big manoeuvres here, lads. Oh, achievement unlocked. Chapter 1, President Reign. Chapter 2, A New Swordland. Oh. Alright. F's in the chats for all the other gamers can't keep up with my achievement ratios. Bam. Okay. Oh yeah, here we go. This is hot. Heaps of briefings coming in from all around the country. And big news in the capital. And something's going on with Agnolia as well. Alright, let's read the news. Lockhaven Times. Lockhaven League of Women March. Hundreds of women organised by the Swordish League of Women marched and called for etc, etc, etc. Good on ya. Geopolitico, this is my favourite newspaper. Valgslandian Navy forces Agnolian drill ship to retreat from Helgeland. Ui. That is rough. Helm, Valgsland. Navy Chief Admiral Kurt Hexer on Tuesday said an Agnolian drilling ship was driven away from Valgsland's exclusive economic zone in the Nurmenlander Sea recently, asserting that such activities will be dealt with swiftly and sternly. The ship entered the area without Valgslandian Navy's prior permission, they said. The illegal occupation of Helgeland does not give Agnolia the right to claim the seas. Our stance has been that if you do anything in our region, you have to notify us or take our permission, the Navy Chief said at a press conference, without elaborating further on the incident. Since 1950, there's been a permanent presence of the Valgslandian Navy in the Marchian Sea region, mostly in the form of an anti-piracy force. Experts are concerned about Agnolia's increasing forays from Helgeland, which they believe may trigger a heavy response from Valgsland. So like I was saying, the closest historical parallel to this region here is the South China Sea. Now, Valgsland has the stronger navy, so they will be playing the part of China in this historical analogy. And Agnolia? Well, you might be tempted to think of this as Taiwan. Yeah, we could set it up the other way around. Agnolia is China and Valgsland is the US, and this is Taiwan. But then it's not really a South China Sea negotiation. Anyway, my point is that Valgsland has the overwhelming naval power, so Agnolia has to play a different game. Now they occupy it, okay, and it's contested territory, so there's going to be disputes about whether or not it projects an exclusive economic zone or not. Agnolia can't enforce that exclusive economic zone here. So they have to seek other methods of doing it, and that would include things like civilian vessels, Coast Guard vessels, and a sort of merchant marine or something like that, like these sort of less than war maneuvers, right? So you can take one of your civilian vessels or sort of deniable merchant marine vessels, ram it into a Valgslandian patrol vessel and then claim aggression and paint them to look like the bad guys and try and bully them out and that kind of thing. It's a dangerous game, but if you're interested in brinksmanship, that's the way that you would go about it in this area, I would say. The problem is, of course, if you accidentally go too far and it does actually hit the brink, well then Valgsland, that gives Valgsland the Casus Belli, they sink your navy and then take over this. So if I was Agnolia, I would not push this very hard, but I would certainly be very tempted to hold on to this bit of land, because holding this piece of land essentially cuts these two naval gaps here, assuming that you can reinforce it, or at least build up enough momentum of forces to be able to cut off shipping or to resist a naval attack. Anyway, let's see what Agnolia's got to say for themselves. Read the report from Agnolia. Agnolia offshore drilling near Helgi Island increased tensions. Wow, there's oil in there. How about that? Agnolia has started a new oil drilling operation very close to the disputed territory of Helgi Land. The tensions increased when the situation turned into a standoff between Valgslandian and Agnolian warships. It took several hours for the gridlock to be resolved, and the situation has de-escalated for now. Yeah, so even more like a South China Sea analogy. Let's just have a quick look here. Military strong. Doesn't say what their actual naval is, though. We know that they're the strongest navy, but if we could get an actual read of what their naval report was, we'd be able to compare it to the Agnolian naval report and have a look. Weak military. See, Agnolia has foolishly, and I can only assume that they took this via a naval victory, Helgeland, and if they did that in the same, presumably in the same war that lost them Dome, they foolishly made a major strategic error by specialising in naval forces instead of land forces. If they kept the land forces, they would have not had Helgeland, but they would have kept Dome. That would have been much better. Especially for us. Who knows how big the territory around Dome that they lost was, but maybe they could have made a gap between their own territory and the Tranquil Sea. Anyway, let's work our way from north to south around all of the little briefings, and then we'll go do the capital, see what we've got there. Military equipment outdated. Alright, don't worry about that, we're already spending. We've increased the military expenditure, so this should already be a neutralised problem. You know, give or take a little while. You guys hear that plane? Very appropriate. The General Staff has performed an analysis on our borders to assess our military defence capabilities against a potential Rumburg attack. The results show that our military equipment is outdated and needs replacement as soon as possible. The continuation of the worrying report shows that in the event of an attack, our border would be broken through easily, leaving the primary regions of Swordland exposed. Yeah, I'd already assumed all of that. If you'd watched our previous geopolitics video, you'll already know that we've basically, in the event of an invasion, we're essentially going to do a staged retreat back to these two major cities. What do we got here? Educations in rural regions require improvements. Chiara Valda reports that the current education institutions in rural regions of Swordland have been largely neglected. As part of her analysis, the literacy rate in Swordland currently stands at 80%, while rural regions like Narbel has a literacy rate of only 64%. The lack of schools per capita also reflects these results. Yep, I appreciate that, but literacy has to come on the back of potential for industrialisation, right? So once we've got our major industrial centres up and running, then it'll be really easy to expand outwards, and that will give us both the money and the thirst for educated, like the industrial need for an educated populace. And then that's what will cause it to occur. Until then, you know, I'm quite happy for the people in these regions to perform their agricultural tasks and whatnot. Read the report from Suzerain. Massive network of BFF priests discovered. What on earth does that mean? The Vice Minister of the Interior has reported the discovery of a large-scale underground network of the BFF. Are those the Bloods? Bludish Freedom Front. Yes, it is. Militant and political. Did we squash them when we squashed the youth organisations? Presumably, they're a proscribed organisation. In 1944, the leader was captured and imprisoned. There's not been any single attack made by the organisation since 1949. Okay. Well, so long as they don't have a new charismatic leader come up, we should be able to use the increased expenditure in the police force to continue to drive them underground. Under the guise of a state-sanctioned priesthood, the BFF has recruited hundreds and possibly thousands of Nuriti worshippers, including non-Bludish citizens, to support their cause for independence. Well, we haven't had any religious discussion whatsoever in the state so far. Yes, a bunch of monotheists. Okay. A dozen arrests were made, but since most police officers don't speak Bludish, it will be difficult to find the actual ringleader priests of the network. A request was made to ban Bludish as a language from sanctuaries. Well, our pushback on BFF and Nuriti will be exactly determined by the amount of trouble that they make for us. So long as they keep quiet and don't cause any trouble, then it won't be a problem. But if they start causing trouble, I'll immediately I'll immediately manoeuvre to disintegrate their organisation if possible. The only problem with that strategy, of course, is that they can use the bide your time and hide your power strategy to do a huge amount of infiltration and then work from there. But I'm going to assume that the security apparatus can take care of it, and I don't need to deal with it. Benfey Regional Airport, overcrowded. We've been receiving, well, that's a good sign. If people have the money to be able to fly and are able to do that, then that's fantastic. We've been receiving reports about the capacity of Benfey Regional Airport. The Mayor of Benfey is preparing to put a request forward for an investment to build an international airport in the city. For a touristic region like Benfey, he claims it would increase the overall prosperity of Swordland. That was fantastic. That is fantastic, and I would love to be able to do that. But I would much rather have, over here, a military airport, or even a dual-use airport. Looks like there's even a little airport here. See a little bit of plane sticking out here. And there's a little bit there as well. Yeah, so I would like to, but yeah, seeing as airports are a dual-use technology, I think I would much rather perform the investment somewhere over this side of the country. Although having said that, I don't know what our air force is like. Maybe we don't have a functional air force, in which case maybe it would just be a sound investment. But I'm sceptical whether or not that would actually be the right investment. Okay, no diplomatic communiques from our neighbours to the south. Let's see what's going on. Workers' Rights Act. Sign or veto the Workers' Rights Act that was approved by the Grand National Assembly. Let's see what this says. Section 1 establishes the minimum wage of 2.5 Swedish Ren per hour. Section 2 sets a weekly maximum of 60 hours of labour. Section 3 establishes a double overtime pay per hour after 40 a week. Section 4 determines that workers are to be protected against occupational hazards and be provided humane work conditions. Section 5 establishes that migrant or undocumented workers have the same workers' rights as citizens. If any employer shall not abide by these rules, they will be heavily fined by the government, and if not corrected, will face legal action. Well, here's the thing. I want all of these, but my plan to get the economy running was to already reduce the minimum wage. So increasing the minimum wage runs exactly counter to what my plan was. Now, this is also going to cost us one government budget, and I don't mind going into debt, frankly, so long as it doesn't give other countries leverage over us, is the only proviso there. So I'm going to veto this, even though it's what I want, just because we really need like the economic incentive of low wages in order to bring up the level of unemployment, because you'll remember that in some of the regions there's extremely high unemployment, and the best way to counter unemployment is to keep the minimum wage low, whereas if we increase the minimum wage, then that will also increase the amount of unemployment, leading to more unrest and potentially having a bunch of other negative consequences as well. It's really unfortunate, and I certainly wish for the workers of Suzerain to have access to all of these things, but now is not the time. The minimum wage should come up once the kind of basic level of sustainable employment has been reached, somewhere between 90 to 95% employment, and then that will naturally rise it. That would be ideal, although I am willing to do it, above or previous to the actual need. A maximum of 60 hours of labour, that would be great, but on the other hand, heavy investment in like all of that kind of industrial output now will have benefits down the line. Double overtime pay per hour, and all of this other stuff. Anyway, point is, sorry, but no. Ask me again on the year that I move into retirement. Any other things we need to do? Nope. Bit of news. Let's see what's going on here. The Radical will be complaining. Yes, expected. Rain vetoes the workers' rights bill. That's right, I did. Okay, hold up. Despite the mining disaster. Oh yeah, also I am going to look like a massive dickhead for doing that. But I'm prepared to wear that. Okay, let's do these. Regional investment decision. A proposed regional investment to strengthen the weaker part of the economy. Fantastic. Definitely keen for this. Gus Manger and Simon Hull have prepared an extensive regional investment package to revitalise one of top 3 economically fragile regions by boosting the municipality budgets, providing large sums of business grants and giving cheap loans to companies with liquidity problems. The proposal can be implemented in one of the following regions: Bergia, Lauren or Argenland. Let's have a look. Bergia. Oh, Argenland's the one at the top. Okay, we're not going to do this one because that could just be stolen off us. Bergia has an excellent agricultural industry, and investments in this region will definitely incentivise the defence if we get invaded. And what else? We already have a hard border because Valen also wishes to have a hard border here, so there's a minimal amount of foreign worker, illegal workers coming into here. I mean, there's a minimal amount. I mean, there's less than there could be, although there's still some. But seeing as I've just overruled illegal migrants having the same rights as workers, as citizen workers, we can invest here without worrying about all of that getting sapped out. And what was the other one? Grooney? Lauren, this one here. Yeah, right. Well, we already know that in this area here, Conrail is having large investment property price increases. So that's a really good indicator of economic benefits. So I would expect the economic benefits of this region to flow out into Lauren naturally anyway. So Bergia is the clear decision for us. Absolutely. And for those of you who are saying that's going to cost you one, you're absolutely right. But I'm willing to spend money to make money. Okay, budget allocation of law enforcement. I was in my office reading reports from the ministries about the current situation of the protests. My next scheduled meeting was about the law enforcement budget with Nia and Lilius. I heard some knocks on the door. Nia entered and took a seat in front of my desk. Lilius was absent. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Lilius will be late. Apparently there was an urgent matter at the Ministry of the Interior she had to attend to. Shouldn't take long. Well, I'm sure if that was important I would have been briefed on it. What urgent matter? She said something about supply distribution for the police forces. Nothing major. I returned to my reports and Nia smoothed back an errant strand of her hair. There was an awkward silence. While we wait, why don't we have a little chat? This might come off as a little strange, but I am proud of you. Oh, well, thanks, lady. Despite everything, you are actually trying to reform the country. How could you doubt me? Flattery won't work on me. What do you want? It's we, Nia, not me. I couldn't do any of this by myself, so no, I am proud of you. This is just the beginning. There is so much more to do. Yep. I'm not going to turn aside the compliment. Yes, although there is a lot to do, the future looks promising. Thank you for that. You are giving me hope this country can get better. It can get better. Your support gives me hope as well. Yeah, that's right. Take the Yoda option there. There is no try. I will follow you anywhere as long as you keep making good decisions for the country. Fantastic. We want to make political allies, so that is fantastic. How are you really holding up, Anton? Being the president, I mean. Feels like the whole weight of the country crushes me down every single day. Weak. Nothing I can't handle. It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but it's also the best thing I have ever done in my life. Yeah, I like that one. I would have done too, actually, but that's great. I can imagine so much responsibility and so much power at the same time. Well, the responsibility is what justifies the power. I want to assist you and the country as best I can, and to do that I have an idea. We need to eliminate the worst problem we have. Really? What are you suggesting? We nuke Rumburg? Corruption. So finally you come... Yes, and how do we do that? Remember to play the innocent in negotiations a lot of the time. It's high time old guards in the Supreme Court stop holding the country in the palm of their hands. That's why I want to form a new unit, the anti-corruption police. That's my idea. Well, that sounds like an excellent idea. I'm glad you agree. I'm still figuring out the details myself right now, but think about the possibilities. Also, one more thing about Lilius. I wouldn't trust her if I were... She barely finished the sentence before we heard a knock on the door. Nia almost jumped in her chair. Lilius Graff entered the room. There's a cat fight in the ring. Tra-la-la-la-la. Lilius Graff, current Minister of the Interior. So why would I not trust her? I'm really going to read her whole backstory. She inarguably brought with her a large Conservative support in the elections. Yeah, I definitely want her on side. Journal, turn 4. Yes, we know we're doing turn 4. Mr. President, Nia. I hope that I'm not interrupting your conversation. Not at all, we were just discussing a few things. I'm sorry for being late. There was an important matter at the ministry, just a small dispute over who should get the supplies, nothing major. Lilius took the seat next to Nia as she continued talking. Well then, let's go straight in. We'll provide a brief update on the situation of law enforcement. Go ahead. I should point out, part of the reason why I'm bullish on the idea of getting rid of corruption is two major reasons. One, the economy will run much more efficiently if we get rid of the corruption, because we actually want the needs of the economy and the people to be filtered through the economy uncorrupted. And two, it will help the polity, the kind of bureaucratic side of the government, move into a more technocratic mode of operation, which will be more efficient and also more focused and oriented towards the actual outcomes. They say that personal virtue is the true foundation of the strength of a nation, and if that's the case, then getting rid of this corruption as much as we can to flush it out of the system is a good idea. I don't know if I would spend a whole billion ren on it in order to make it happen, but, you know, maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. We'll see how it goes. The Ministry of Justice and the Supreme Court is working in close collaboration with the Ministry of the Interior to address the protests in the country. I must add that thanks to the hard work of our judiciary, the law enforcement forces assigned to my ministry are doing their jobs efficiently. Very good, you're getting promoted. I would call it the success of our forces on the ground, not due to the judicial branch of our government. Lilius shot Nia a brief withering glance before she continued. Oh, these are two arguing with each other. Right. I just read that like it was all one person. Well, I'm not going to go back over and do it. As expected, the budget increase has boosted morale of the employees in the law enforcement agencies. In these dire times, my people and Nia's people are especially delighted. This came as a pleasant surprise to many in the Ministry of the Interior, since it was not even one of our campaign promises. And for that, all I will say is bravo. This was an excellent decision. Agreed. At the Ministry of Justice, we are very happy with the decision as well. The backlog of court cases are dwindling, and we've started to fulfil the needs of the current situation. Certainly a step in the right direction. Did what was expected of me, that's all. Thank you, I'm glad you approve. Of course it was the right decision, I made it after all. Of course. Well then, let's move on to what we're actually here for. Due to the budget increase, we can start doing much more as the main branches of security in Swordland. However, a decision has to be made about the budget balance between the Ministry of the Interior and the Ministry of Justice. Exactly, when deciding, you must look at the bigger picture. I believe you'll make the right choice and pick the Ministry of the Interior. What if I decide to balance the budget? Oh, that is a good hedge. Definitely taking that one. Balancing the budget won't help us much. The current situation clearly demands that a decisive choice to be made to benefit the nation. Okay, this is a plot argument. Very well. I agree, we need to focus on one ministry to achieve tangible results. Of course, what would make the most sense in the current situation would be to support the much neglected Ministry of Justice that would improve the legal system in Swordland. Tell me, Nia, who brings the criminals before the justices? Let me answer, the police forces connected to the Ministry of the Interior. Oh, pardon me. Alright, let's hear the arguments for either side. Why should I pick the Ministry of the Interior? The Ministry of the Interior is a much more significant and important government agency that is in need of the funds, especially during these times where there are many protests in the country. I would have been more moved by that argument if we hadn't already crushed the youth organisations. What does that apply to? Given the decrease in terrorism, yeah, I'm really not convinced by that argument. Although, there is a certain degree. That's a tough one. Alright, let's see what the other argument is. Good luck prosecuting criminals or going through local government laws without enough judges, Lilius. Why should I pick the Ministry of Justice? Each day the stacks of legal cases are piling up for judges. Cases for corruption and criminals are delayed due to lack of funds. It seems to me that it is an organisational issue, but not a funding one. The Interior needs the money more for the police and local governments. I am ready to make a decision. I am not ready to make a decision. What will it be? The funds will go to the Ministry of the Interior to be used to improve the police and the local government. I mean, I really do want that. 3, the funds will go to the Ministry of Justice to reduce court backlog and improve the justice system. I mean, I want that. Option 2, the budget will be distributed equally in between the Ministry of the Interior and the Ministry of Justice. Now remember, there's a hidden option inside this one, the Ministry of the Interior, because if we give the money to the Ministry of the Interior, they will form an anti-corruption organisation to go back and strip the corruption out of the justice system, get rid of the courts, and theoretically reduce the power of the of the Old Guard. I don't necessarily want to reduce the power of the Old Guard because they are a useful balance against the Assembly if it should get out of hand. And which one of these was the... Lilius is the conservative one. And Nia is the Minister of Justice. She says that... Oh, so this is the one that allows the anti-corruption? Excuse me, lads. I'm losing track. Can't tell the difference between these chicks. What have we got? Can't scroll up anymore. Anyway, it must be Nia. Oof. Anyway, I'm going to take the middle one, even though it is inefficient. We have a proposal. We have been battling with the unrest in the country for a long time now. We want to put an end to it. That's why we are proposing the formation of a community police. The community police would be picked from trustworthy members of the local community, give us greater coverage over the country to combat criminals. While some in law enforcement agencies look at this negatively, we do believe it has the potential to be successful. This will come in handy to deal with the protests. Exactly. If you accept, this will give our administrative power to handle the unrest swiftly. Very well. Form the community police. That sounds like a good idea. And some pleasantries. Alright. Something's changed here. Economy, investment in Bergia. Yes, we know that. Order, police leniency. There has been a decrease in crime. However, upon inspections, it seems local police are showing too much leniency to their neighbourhoods, and there is lower crime in communities. Well, that's a good thing. Yes, that's right. What's happening in the news? Protesters target sacred symbols. That is terrible. Government investment in Bergia. That's good. Richter calls president to action. Head of Sordland's main opposition party, the People's Freedom and Justice Party, has said President Rain needs to address issues like term limits and electoral threshold if Sordland's democracy, freedoms and economy were to be developed. Didn't we already do that? We dropped the electoral threshold to 8%. And did we introduce term limits? I don't remember exactly what happened with that. And what are the economists saying? The recession is growing faster. What? With double-digit unemployment and plunging economic output, well, this ought to be being remedied. The recession has been reality for a long time, but if there was any remaining doubt that Sordland is in a recession, it has now been removed by an announcement from the Business Council of Sordland. In the announcement, the council pointed to the unprecedented magnitude of the decline in employment and production and its broad reach across the entire Swordish economy. The economy shrank by 2.4% in the last month, and in a month, jeepers, 2.4% in the last month, and lost further value against the Arcasian lira. Well, I would have thought that if the value of the lira if the value of the ren is going down against the lira, that would increase our exports, and that should eventually balance out, therefore stimulating our economy and increasing growth in our export industries. Seeing as I imagine that we have a fair amount of, industrial and agricultural autonomy because we have a strong agricultural sector in Bergia, certainly with the increase of investment in this zone. My guess is that we have yet to see the economic returns from the infrastructure development and and obviously the agricultural investment is not going to come online yet. But it is a worrying sign. Still, it's an ill wind that blows no bugger no good. An evening walk with Monica. Alright, hanging out with the wife. Very good. I was to suggest we walk towards Sol Square, but the guards told me it's been closed for yet another protest. I wonder who they're protesting this time. Must be those damn communists again. Old grudges die hard, I see. This is different, they're a nastier breed. In any case, where shall we go? I'm not sure Capital Park is a wise idea in this climate either. Every time I see the word Capitol from now on, it's going to be for a different reason. Readers of the news will know what I'm on about, obviously. You're right, it's not worth the security risk. Let's stay inside the gates. Nonsense, we have our guards. Nothing to be afraid of. Let's go to Capitol Park. If you say so, let's go then before the children get home. How was your day? Paperwork, endless meetings, usual nightmare. I imagine some might find that stimulating. What about your day? I hope yours was better. It was fine. I caught up on some reading while the children were at school. I wonder what she's reading. As we reached the river, we saw Jonas Krona, the former Minister of Justice, walking in the opposite direction. I remembered that Nea Morgna used to be his vice minister. He gave us a quick nod of acknowledgement. Jonas had fought hard and strong against Seoul's judiciary reforms, but after years of the government blocking his every move, he gave up on his ideals and became a part of the administration. What did our ideals really mean if they could be changed so easily? What about the people we idolise? Evelyn also came around for tea. She says hi. She was feeling rather low, though. Apparently she and Peter had a bit of a disagreement. Peter's in the doghouse again? How'd it happen? Apparently Peter had too much whiskey, as usual, and didn't behave when Evelyn's father was over for dinner yesterday. Ha! What a soap opera. That's Peter, perpetually pickled. I'll have a talk with him. Evelyn seemed close to tears. Aren't you glad you and I don't have these kinds of quarrels? She didn't say anything. That's not a good sign. We kept walking. You know, Evelyn hasn't been the same since what happened to her at Hossor's post last year. You remember how she got fired for supporting Alfonso? Peter tried everything to get her job back, but it didn't work. A sad day for journalism and free speech in Swordland. I completely agree, a sad day indeed. I wonder if I could meddle. But enough about the Vecturns. I also spoke to Janice on the phone. Oh, Janice, right. Anyone remember who Janice is? Secretary? Look up Janice for me, would you? I'm not going to lie to my wife. You remember, my friend from university? She was in the Swedish literature class together. A few years younger than me, red hair, scar on her forehead. I had dinner with her and her husband once or twice. Neither the name nor the description rang a bell. I still don't remember her, but go on. Anyway, she's been working as an executive assistant at the Violet Pictures film studio. She recently became pregnant and asked her boss for paid maternity leave. Oh, congratulations, and guess what? She was fired for it. After asking for maternity leave? That's terrible. Look at it from a cost standpoint. Obviously, they don't want to lose money. Can't her husband provide for them both while she raises the child? But why should she have to lose her job? Something is wrong with this, Anton, and that's not all. They immediately replaced her with a younger, less experienced man, a son of an executive no less. Yeah, well, it's not what you know, it's who you know, I'm afraid. So she called the First Lady to ask for help. Nepotism, eh? They must have wanted him in there all along. That doesn't justify what they did to her. Yeah, you're right. As it happens, another friend works for a television station that's hiring secretaries, so I connected the two of them. That doesn't solve the deeper problem, though. So you're finally starting to see things my way. Yeah, well, I wouldn't go that far. Women in this country are still seen in wives and mothers first, and human beings second. They're harassed at work, underpaid, blocked from positions of power, and those are the lucky ones. The fact that there are still places in this country where little girls like Diana are denied the right to an education. I'm sure the parents have their reasons. Go on. Yes, and I will do what I can to change that. These little girls and people like Janice need someone to speak on their behalf, a role model, a successful woman. We were right in front of one of the park benches that lined the river. Monica gestured to it, and we sat down, which brings me to my point. I know that the Mayor of Anrica, Curtin Lester, will be delivering a speech at the annual opening of the Benfey Festival. Okay. My wish is to take his place and deliver the speech instead. Lester was one of Swordland's most influential politicians. He had started his career in Benfey before rising to power in Anrica. Benfey's current mayor had personally invited him to make the opening speech. Replacing him with Monica would likely anger him, not enough to cause a major incident, but enough that he might not support me in the assembly. I want to base the speech on women's rights in Swordland, on the oppression and discrimination we face every day, on the basis of our sex alone. I want our voice heard, and this festival is the time to do it. I just need your blessing as my husband and as the president of Swordland. Monica's eyes were blazing with a fire I hadn't seen since we were students. She wanted this badly, but I had to be careful with my promises. Well, see, the issue is, if we increase women's rights and huge numbers of them enter into the workforce, that will massively drop the, what do you call it? It will massively increase the supply of employees and therefore, necessarily decrease the wage that anybody can get paid. There's really bad timing in terms of the economics of it. Does it have to be at the festival? Why can't you make your speech another time? Well, there should be an option that says I can't make an enemy out of somebody in my party. It has to be now. Thousands go to this festival and millions watch the speeches at home. Swordsland's woman can't wait any longer. Well, I'm afraid they just have to. I don't understand. After all I've done to support you, you can't support me on this? Sorry, but I can't make Curtin less angry. That's exactly it. Women belong in the home, not in politics. Absolutely not. Anyone with the ability should enter the field. It is not the right time. Swordland is facing too much political strife. We'll have to deal with women's rights later. I don't want you to step into politics. Sorry, but I can't make Curtin less angry. What little trouble this causes in the short term is nothing compared to the lasting positive change it will bring, not just for women, but for all of Swordland. I don't think so. She was silent. There was a chill in her voice. If that's truly how you feel, so be it. Ah, dear. Still, needs must. What's in the news? Explosion in Dyer, 3 killed and 22 wounded. Ugh, just as I was talking about how there was a decrease in the amount of terrorism, suddenly this happens. Well, hopefully the half budget that I gave them will allow a certain amount. Detonation, Swordland in a tough spot. Our economic advisors have commented on the matter, saying that the current stance of the administration is hiding the extent of the debt. This, of course, brings up the question, is Swordland turning into a debt nation? Well, if I had a report on what the debt levels were like in the other countries, so long as we were less in debt than the other guys, that would be good. But anyway, what does Geopolitico have to say? Schmolek condemns Arcasian soldiers in Lesbia. Arcasian soldiers in Lesbia. Okay. Vizek President Viktor Schmolak on Thursday criticised the Lesbian government for bringing Arcasian soldiers close to the borders of Valen. Last month, Prime Minister Alvarez and President Walker agreed on the construction of several military bases in Lesbia that would station ATO soldiers. With the arrival of the first Arcasian soldiers to Lesbia this week, Valen's stance has become increasingly hostile. Interesting. In a speech on Thursday, Smolak said President Walker has succeeded in spreading Arcasian imperialism to eastern Merkapa, which will have consequences for every one of us in the region. ATO is clearly expanding its influence in our region using Lesbia. We must be careful, said President Smolak, warning the neighbouring nations of Agnolia and Swordland to be prepared for future crises. Well, that's a good thing overall. If ATO is stationing forces in the country to our south, then that's good. Maybe we can get our own military base from them stationed here. That'd be excellent. They wouldn't dare attack us if we had a military base stationed in this wee city down here. Chancellor Hagel condemns military build-up in Lesbia. In the press conference on Wednesday, Chancellor Hagel of Valgsland condemned Arcasia for building a military base on the Ravnos Island. In his statement, Arcasia's action on the Ravnos Island is a provocative move that is undermining the peace and stability in the region. It is also threatening Valgsland's national security. However, Valgsland is not a country to be bullied so easily. We and the entire CSP coalition will correspond in force if Arcasia does not withdraw from the island. Interesting. Let's see if we can find Ravnos Island. That's it there. If they're enforcing Ravnos Island with a military base, yeah, that's not far enough. I mean, that's not close enough to be useful for us in terms of a Rumburg invasion. However, very likely that will mean they'll project a zone of control, which would, at the very least, will allow us seaborne exports if Valgasland uses their superior navy to cut off the Grey Strait and all of this area. Interesting stuff. Alright. Another change here. Nationwide peaceful protests. Fantastic. Do love a peaceful protest. As opposed to a mostly peaceful protest, lads. Alright. Read the report from Boren. Red youth members charged with terrorism and treason. Excellent. That's good that they've been brought to justice. And I'll never see the outside of a prison again. And what do these briefs say? The BFF bombs a police station. That's bad. And what have we got here? Read the reports from Lockhaven. Young Swords members arrested and face terrorism charges. So that's good that they have been arrested. So I think it's likely that some of this is in response to the increased policing that we've done. That's a good thing. Alright, discussion of changes to the tax system. Here we go. We were at the top floor of the Business Council building, which had a great view of the beautiful Lockhaven. I looked outside from the tall glass windows. The Marken Sea stretched as far as the eye could see, and it was dotted with many ships towards the horizon. They were mostly cargo ships carrying precious goods in and out of Swordland. That's what I like to see. Tracing back the paths of the ships, I looked at the harbour. Lockhaven was home to one of the largest harbours in the entire continent. Many dockyard workers were loading or unloading the containers. Work never stopped here. The door opened. Simon, Mikhail and Edith entered the meeting room. Mr. President, nice to see you again. Good afternoon. It's great to see you all again. Simon, Mr. President, before we start, I would like to mention some rumours that I heard. Vetoing the recent Workers' Rights Act was welcomed by a lot of business owners. The first section about the minimum wages would have been very damaging to many corporations. I heard the same. Yeah, don't believe I wasn't tempted. A good decision, I'd say, especially during the recession. Well, I concur. You are in no position to evaluate my decision? Jeepers. Imagine how much of a brusque arsehole you'd have to be. I don't care about rumours. If someone wants to say something, they can say it to me directly. I wanted to sign it, but I had to make a call. That's right. You have done the right thing. First of all, I would like to thank everyone here for their work on our tax system reform. We all know how complicated our current system is, and this work wouldn't be possible without you. The ultimate goal here is to end the recession. I completely agree. Before we move ahead and start formulating a plan, we need you to determine our direction, Mr. President. We have a few possibilities as a result of the work we have done so far. We can increase, maintain, or decrease the taxes for large corporations. I believe some of us in the room have a few strong opinions about this. In parallel, we can increase, maintain, or decrease the taxes for small and medium businesses. Well, I wonder what the rates are at the moment. Let's start with large corporations, and then we'll move on to the small businesses. Well, I'm not going to increase them. What if we decrease the taxes for large corporations? Not an option at this point. Our state is broke and barely functioning with the help of taxes. We could balance it by increasing the taxes of small businesses. No, I'm not going to do that. So we can't do it. It's not a possibility unless if we try and balance it with a tax for small and medium businesses. I do not advise that though. No, I'm not going to do that. Alright, is there any downside to keeping things as they are? Unfortunately, that's the only thing we can do at this point anyway. The economy is completely destroyed, Mr. President. I don't know how we'll get out of this mess. What does everyone think we should do? I don't think we can do anything at this point, although I would have preferred a decrease in taxes. And it doesn't seem possible. What if we borrow instead? Our international trade is driven mostly by products of these corporations. They are the backbone of our economy. Yeah, right, so let's decrease it, and then that will increase the productivity of the corporations. Then the corporations will export more, then their profits will be higher, then the profits will mean that they will have to pay more in taxes, meaning that we will get paid more, essentially neutralising the total inflows into the state coffers whilst having a net positive benefit on the total productivity level of the economy. Exactly, an increase should be out of the question. These companies are the backbone of our economy and our way out of the recession. Alright, I am ready to make a decision. Very well. We'll decrease the taxes for large corporations and balance the budget with an increase for smaller businesses. No! I want to decrease the taxes for both large and small corporations. Alright. We'll maintain the taxes for large corporations. That will not change anything. That is fine. Well then, I have to take note of our action. I will put it into implementation as soon as possible. Let's move on to small and medium businesses. What if we decrease the taxes? This is not a possibility. Our state is broke. We're barely functioning. Is there any downside to keeping things the way they are? That's basically the way things are anyway. Righto, same thing. Blah, 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 blah. I am ready to make a decision. Very well. Maintain the taxes for small and medium businesses. Well, what an absolute bloody waste of time this was. Tut. I would much rather have borrowed one and decreased the taxes on both. That would have been the way to do it. Visit and inspection of schools in Leren. Not quite ready to do that just yet. Let's read the news. Torren School wins an award. National School Rankings have announced the results for the 1955 school metrics. Surprisingly, in the category of primary and secondary education, the Torren Hill School has surpassed all others with the highest average results achieved in the student performance, discipline, facilities, hygiene and staff happiness categories. That's fantastic. Education experts believe the principal and head teachers excelled in taking responsibility for their duties, which led to better performance in many aspects. Upon closer inspection, the Locaven Times editorial team found out about how much delegation occurred in the staff that even included diligent teenagers to improve and maintain the operations of the school. Well, that's very good. And what does Geopolitico say? Schmolek threatens a new military incursions targeting the BFF. Vizek President Viktor Schmolek has threatened to launch military operations in northern Valen, close to the borders. Can we read about him? Vizek nationalism with socialist characteristics. Alright. In a television interview to curry support for next month's referendum to extend his presidential powers, Schmolek announced that the military is preparing a new internal operation with possible cross-border implications against the BFF. Observers point out that a tough stance against the BFF, which is fighting for minority rights, plays well with Vizek nationalists. Schmolek has pledged to eradicate the Bludish groups in Valen, the Democracy Party of Valen, and the militant organisation, the Bludish Freedom Front, which is known to operate both in Valen and Sordland extensively. Such operations are fraught with military risks and the possibility of further exacerbating already tense relations among neighbours, particularly with Sordland, due to the large numbers of Bludish minority living close to the borders, as well as the Arcasia-backed Lesbia. Despite such risks, some analysts don't rule out such a military operation. Concerning. So Vizek must be the nominative for Valen, right? Let's have a look. Weak military, not an issue. Bad though, if they invade here, we'll have to move our military forces here, which means that Romberg will move against us and take the top half of the country. On the other hand, I don't want to force Bludish ethnics out of our region into Valen if Schmolek is just going to exterminate them. Tough one. That is going to give us something to chew on. Alright, read the report from Wholesword. General Staff commends the administration. The General Staff convened at Camp Strongarm, good name, A session much shorter than usual concluded with a positive military analysis of Sordland's field capabilities. Chief of the Armed Forces, Vulcan Kruger, made a public press statement praising the administration and its efforts to strengthen the most important branch of the government, the military. All staff generals co-signed a letter to support to the Reign administration. Fantastic. Very good. Feeling pretty secure now, lads. Alright, and on that happy note, I'm going to end it. And I'll see you in the next one.